Naval combat is a fearsome thing. The only thing a crew can rely on is their ship. Their destinies are intertwined. If a ship is in danger, its crew is in danger too. When the battle is already lost and they have a directive to retreat, saving their ship is the highest priority. The Battle of the Java Sea was nothing less than a tragedy for Allied forces in World War II. They bought one day of preparation for the Dutch East Indies, Dutch colonies then and Indonesia now. But the invasion of the Japanese force was inevitable. The Japanese fleet had 4 cruisers and 14 destroyers, one of the most fearsome vessels in World War II. For comparison, the Allied fleet of Dutch, Australian, American, and British naval forces had only 9 destroyers, and their cruisers had fewer weapons than the Japanese. And not to mention the superior air force of the invaders. The notorious Imperial Japanese Air Force swarmed the skies. The Battle of the Java Sea started on February 27, 1942. After 7 dreadful hours of fighting, the whole Allied fleet was destroyed, with just a few lucky exceptions. One of those exceptions was a small ship, MLS Abraham Crijnssen. It wasn't exactly a battling force, with only one 3-inch gun and 2 20mm cannons. Not quite enough to face 14 destroyers, right? It was a Dutch minesweeper serving at the shore of the Dutch East Indies. When the outcome of the battle became obvious, the Abraham Crijnssen received this new directive: retreat. But where? Japanese forces were everywhere. The closest safe place was Australia, and that's 1,000 miles through waters thoroughly monitored by the enemy. But an order is an order, and having a single chance in a million is better than having none at all. 4 similar ships tried to escape, but soon it was the last ship standing, or floating. With a top speed of 15 knots and its small but quite noticeable size, there was absolutely no way of escaping the Japanese force. Still, against all odds, this vulnerable minesweeper reached Australia in 8 days. But how? Well, it took one very clever and daring idea. After dark, the captain ordered for the ship to be secured to the nearest tropical island. Then the crew decorated the top of the ship with tropical tree branches and all sorts of foliage. The lower rear sides of the ship were painted gray to mimic the rocky shore. After its tropical makeover, the ship continued on its way to safety. But of course, a moving island 184 feet long and 25 feet wide wouldn't fool anybody. So it was only moving at night and floating all day near other tropical islands it met on its way. Radar scanning was only a rising technology in 1942, so Japanese ships had no access to it. And the visual deception worked. The Abraham Crijnssen is intact to this very day, docked at the Dutch Navy Museum, where it was saved for preservation in 1995.